how many wide receivers will the 49ers actually keep on this 53-man roster? And how many players on the initial 53 will still be on the 53 2 weeks from now? And who were the biggest cuts? I mean, it was a massive day in the news as the 49ers announced their initial 53, and we got a surprising designation for season-ending injured reserve. We got a big vet who was brought back from the PUP list. We have great news for Trent Williams fans, which is a.k.a. all 49ers fans, if you know what's good for you, and big decisions coming to light that place spotlights on some players and concern for others. On today's show, a huge update on the current roster cuts and great Trent Williams news mixed in there. We are breaking down 5 rookies picked to play a role against the Jets in week 1. Is this good news or is this bad news? Season-ending IR news that we didn't want to hear, and the 2-minute drill. If you're new here, I'm Nate. We are talking the San Francisco 49ers every single day on this channel, and it really would help me out if you hit that subscribe button and like the video if you actually like the content. I'd appreciate it. The good news is this. The 2024 draft is so highly respected that there's a world in which 5 of the current rookies are being picked to participate on Monday Night Football against the New York Jets. One of these guys might surprise you, by the way. I'm going to break it down in a couple minutes, but the real big news today, and I think there's some good and bad stuff kind of mixed in there, is roster cuts. And I want to know from you guys, how are you feeling right now? How are you feeling? How you feeling about the roster cuts? Where are you at right now? Where's your head at? I'm seeing a lot when I look around on Twitter, when I listen to folks who are talking about what's going on. There's a lot of mixed feelings out there, and I'm kind of bummed because this is a really good football team. At some point, we have to admit, we have to look at it and just be like, guys, this is a great football team. Yeah, we want BA to be in the team right now. We want him practicing and all that. We want Trent Williams there right now. We want him, and I'm with that. I'm down with both of those things. But goodness, this is a talented football team, isn't it? When you look at the guys who were cut, this is a talented football team. We are cutting guys who are going to be starting players elsewhere. We'll get into that though. We'll get back to that. Let me know how you guys are feeling. Just let it breathe. Let it breathe, faithful. Just be honest. I'm excited. I'm here for it. I'm looking forward to seeing what you have to say about it. Let's dive into what we know so far. Firstly, I think I prepped for this video like 5 times. There you go. Oh, that's not the one either. There we go. Now we got it. I prepped for this video so many times, guys, because as like the roster cuts were coming out, I'm like, oh, okay, here's the storyline we're going to talk about. And then more roster cuts happen, and news is kind of popping out, and there's rumors of this guy and rumors of that guy, and I'm like trying to stay up on all of it. And then the 49ers just released all of it, like the whole 53. Like, all right, I guess I could have just waited for all of that. And had I done that, I would have saved myself a lot of headache. But here's what we know so far. So much to break down here, starting with the QB position. Josh Dobbs getting the number 1. No, I'm just kidding. Just playing. Yeah, they're all listed by their number. Okay, so don't be like, all of my lists. I like to put them in order based on their value to the team or whatever. Yeah, don't do that when you look through all these pictures. But all right, so Dobbs, Purdy, and Allen, they took 3 quarterbacks. Tanner Mordecai's hopefully a practice squad guy, and that's kind of what we all sort of expected. There were some people out there saying 2 quarterbacks. Actually, a lot of people out there saying 2 quarterbacks. But here we are, as expected, at least for now, you've got the 3 QBs. Not a whole lot there to talk about. On the running back room, you're going to notice a big name is missing. If you didn't see the news yet, Elijah Mitchell had season-ending injured reserve. We're going to talk more about that later in the show because I think it warrants it. He deserves it, I think. He deserves the conversation. Patrick Taylor getting the call up, getting the nod, at least for now. And we'll see what that looks like. When I say for now, I mean the filling out of the full finished 53-man roster as we really head into the meat of the season. But that's the big one, the real big one there. All right. At the wide receiver level, you're going to notice there are 7 wide receivers. Those 2 kind of spots, I suppose, out of 7 that were quote-unquote questionable would be Chris Conley, which pretty much by this point was already locked. We talked about that yesterday. The other one would be Ronnie Bell. He didn't have the most amazing preseason. He had some moments that felt really special, like, hey, he's taken that step up we've all been waiting for, and then he had moments that not so much. But I have a sneaking suspicion the reason Ronnie Bell is on this football team right now on the initial 53 is because this Brandon Aiyuk deal is not done yet. And I think this might even say something, if I'm not stretching too far. Maybe I am, let me know in the comments, but I think this might be saying something about what the 49ers think about this Brandon Aiyuk deal getting done. And maybe a lack of confidence there, or a message to BA saying, we're going to keep more guys on this roster because we know you're replaceable. And obviously, Ronnie Bell, Chris Conley, these are not guys who are replacing Brandon Aiyuk like for like. But there are bodies that can go on the field and can play in the X receiver position and can technically do a job there. Not that we'd like them, not that we want them over Brandon Aiyuk, but I think that might be the message that the 49ers are saying. The other message the 49ers said, Danny Gray, goodbye. That's unfortunate. All the belief in him when he was drafted a couple years ago, he's gone. Robbie Chosen, gone. All these guys, all those other wide receivers out there we talked about, like Jontre Kirkland out there, and all those guys are gone. Tay Martin is rumored to be on the practice squad. That's just a rumor I heard, so I don't know what that actually means. Another one, this one's interesting as well. 2 tight ends on the list there. So I saw some folks on Twitter freaking out, like, what is going on? Why are there only 2 tight ends? Yeah, okay. Well, just take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Everyone, it's going to be fine. Firstly, I think Saubert's going to be back, personally. I think Saubert is actually on the 53 when this is all said and done. But that's a spot we need to keep in mind as we're thinking about the rest of this roster. And kind of you got some lopsided parts here, which Kyle Shanahan told us was going to happen, guys. If you missed this, Kyle Shanahan literally said the initial 53 is never the same as the 53 down the line. It's just not. Historically, it's not. It'll never be the same. And you should expect, the way he kind of phrased it was something to the tune of, there are going to be positions because of injuries and stuff that are just going to look a little bit funny for a while, right? That's how I'm phrasing it. I say that's how he phrased it. That's not how he said it. I'm paraphrasing massively when I say that. So, for example, they kept an extra wide receiver. They kept 9 defensive linemen and only 8 offensive linemen. They kept 6 cornerbacks, technically speaking. So, there's a lot of movement that's still going to take place, all right? Great job for Jake Tonjes, though. Congratulations to Jake Tonjes for being on the initial 53. That says a lot about what he's done to prove his worth, and perhaps maybe even what 49ers front office is hearing on the trade wire, right? What people are calling and asking about maybe. They're not willing to risk putting him out there. Let's see here. Braden Willis, gone. I think he's gone for good, personally, but we'll see. We'll see. They've obviously liked what they've seen in him in the past, so there's no guarantees there, but I wonder if Eric Saubert's back and Braden Willis is gone for good. That's sort of where my gut is at on this one. We'll have to wait and see. No disrespect to any of them, of course. Here's your offensive lineman. Leaving room for Trent Williams. You've got 8 guys here. Last year they took 9, if I remember correctly. So that leaves room, a spot for Trent Williams. And more than that, far more important than that, only 8 were taken, and they got rid of Chris Hubbard. They let him go today. He's the obvious left tackle backup in the event that Jalen Moore is your starting left tackle, which tells me that they believe very strongly that this Trent Williams deal is going to get worked out and he's going to be a left tackle on this football team. Now, on one hand, you're like, duh, he's got 3 years left on his contract. But on the other hand, he's got no guaranteed money and he's acting very strongly like he's willing to sit out an entire season like he's done before. He's willing to sit out as long as it takes to get his money. So I think this is good news. Personally, I think this is good news. Trent Williams is going to be on this football team. That's the way I read this. But we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out timing-wise. I think Trent Williams not being on this does open up an extra spot, by the way, for other guys right now. So I think that's why that's going to play into a little bit of that lopsidedness that we're seeing here. On the defensive line, this is pretty interesting. So you got Okuwanu, who got in as that's kind of a surprise addition for me. Like him, just didn't think he was going to make it. I kind of saw him as an in-the-hunt guy all this time. Robert Beal Jr., I expected him to make it, but he was one that was on the bubble, so good for him. Everybody else pretty much picked themselves, so I don't think there's a whole lot that needs to be said there. What I will say, it's interesting that they are holding an extra edge position. Okuwanu is an edge rusher there. I think that for as long as Trent Williams is holding out, and the deal is being worked out and they're negotiating and all that good stuff, I think that they're going to hold that extra defensive lineman because they're going to bide their time while YGM and Leonard Floyd are getting healthy. And I think Leonard Floyd will be back sooner than YGM, and that's the expectation right now anyway. Leonard Floyd's kind of day-to-day. YGM is week-to-week. So I think that's a good sign. Personally, I think that's a good sign for the 49ers taking those 9 defensive linemen and taking advantage of an opportunity that they have in front of them, which also could explain the tight end situation too, by the way. Linebackers. Big name missing there is Jalen Graham. Unfortunate for him. Hopefully to practice squad. Tatum Bethune getting his. Congratulations to him. And the story that I absolutely love, Curtis Robinson. Turning down a chance to be a starter in Tennessee, to stay on this football team, to practice squad it up, to at times to learn and grow under Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw and this coaching staff. How cool is it that he now is on the 53? Great for him. I'm so happy for him. What a cool story. What a cool opportunity for him to be on this initial 53-man roster. That's awesome. At the cornerback position, you're going to notice 2 things. First, you're going to notice Ambry Thomas is on there. Still could end up on IR, designated to return. Some of that's kind of messy in terms of how all those little rules work out. The other thing you might notice there is no Deommodore Lenoir. We'll get to him in a second. He's on the football team. Don't worry. Rock Ya-Sin and Sam Womack are the big ones getting cut. So those are the big losses. One of these guys technically could still make the roster, so I'm not counting them out completely, depending on how many tight ends the 49ers end up keeping at the end when it's all said and done. All the player movement taking place. If Brandon Aiyuk stays on the team, and then does Ronnie Bell get the boot? There's possibility there. And if any position grouping, defensive line is probably the one where you're going to see an extra guy picked up. But whatever the case is, there's still a chance that one of these guys could get picked up. We'll have to wait and see. Rock Ya-Sin played a lot of snaps, which is interesting. What was the other one? Darrell Luter, congrats to him. He was technically a bubble guy, and I'm happy for him. That's great. I kind of picked that out. There was a few signs, like if you're quote-unquote reading the tea leaves, as everyone likes to say, there were a few signs there in terms of how the coaches talked about him, but also then him getting that interview yesterday was kind of a sign. The safety position, it picked itself. We don't even need to really talk about it. The only real conversation piece is the fact that Hufanga is off the PUP list, and he is officially a part of the initial 53, which is a good sign. That says that he's going to be available early in the season. Even if it's not week 1, he's going to be available early, which is a good sign. Congrats to Malik Mustafa, rookie, for not just making the team, but making the team by making a statement. Okay, here you go. Deommodore Lenoir, there he is. Demo's on there, just listed as DBs. So cool, that's fine. In my mind, when I pick the number of players per position, I'm still going to think of him as a cornerback. But I understand, he gets a class of his own. Good for him. He deserves it. And special teams also picked itself. So is this the final 53? No, of course not. You got 9 defensive linemen. You got Trent Williams is not on the roster yet. Aiyuk deal needs to get done if he wants to stay on the roster. This is going to be interesting how all that plays out. Ambry Thomas is on IR, of course, or could go to IR. I mean, I'm assuming he's going to go to IR. We'll have to wait and see how that all plays out because you've got the designations for season-ending IR and all that. And then still a lot of movement that can happen in the coming days. So we'll just have to, I'll keep you updated on that, of course. But Rookie Bliss, I wanted to talk about this really cool article I came across on Niners Wire. I didn't even look at who it was. Kyle Madsen. Of course it was. Of course it was Kyle Madsen. 5 guys who could play in week 1, who could feature in week 1 against, wait for it. Come on. There we go. Now we got it. Against the New York Jets. So Ronaldo Green. Green is in the battle with veteran Isaac Yiadom for a starting job in the 49ers secondary. Tarvarius Ward and Deommodore Lenoir will hold down 2 spots. Yiadom would play outside with Lenoir, kicking inside and nickel packages. Green spent most of the offseason and training camp playing in the slot, so he'd likely stay there with Lenoir sticking outside. We'll have to wait and see how that all plays out, but he's definitely fighting for that spot. I'd say it's like 60-40. I feel like 60-40. Most people think that it's going to be Adams starting. All right. Of course, Dominic Purdy. I'm not even really going to go into this one. I'm just going to be happy that we've got a stud that he needs to prove it against a really, really good defensive line, the New York Jets. Then he's going to have his opportunity to prove it. He's probably going to make some mistakes. We need to expect and plan for him not being a perfect guard on the day. And we're going to be happy for the development that Dominic Purdy is about to get against a very, very good team. He's going to learn a lot and grow a lot through that experience. And I'm excited. I'm really excited for this talent. We'll keep moving. Malik Mustafa. This is an interesting one, and called a long shot. I think when he means long shot, he means at the safety position. Okay, but we'll just go with what Kyle Madsen had to say here. George Odom acquitted himself well in the starting strong safety job throughout camp and preseason. If Talanoa Hufanga isn't active for the season opener, San Francisco may lean on Odom to get back through to Hufanga's return. Mustafa was with the first-team defense during Monday's practice, though, and performed well, according to ESPN's Nick Wagner and many other people who saw it, by the way, having a nice, epic pass breakup. As Odom nurses an ankle he rolled before the preseason finale, Mustafa could make a late push to start against the Jets if that issue continues to linger on. The other thing I'll say there is Malik Mustafa has done some cool stuff in special teams. So I'd like to see him out there in special teams scenarios. Okay, Isaac Guerrero. This one is an interesting one too. As a kick returner, that's the pick, and I understand it, right? He had that 93-yard return on Friday night last week, so maybe there's a shot there as the kick returner, and it doesn't seem like teams are going to be putting their biggest talent out there at kick return. I'm just guessing. Like Deebo Samuel would be electric. I don't think he's going to be out there at the kick return. That's just my guess. I don't think you want to risk him, especially in the first couple weeks when we're still figuring out how this is really going to play out and what teams are going to do. And some of the weird, funky little kicks guys are doing. I play soccer as well, so I get a feel for, bending the ball and outside of the boot, inside the boot, all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how that all plays out. But Jacob Cowing, this one would be interesting because you obviously are going to see him out there at the punt return, in my opinion. I say obviously. I don't know that for sure, but I think he's going to be out there as a punt returner. But what I'm really excited about, too, is seeing him out there and get some reps at the wide receiver position. And obviously, there's a lot of question marks in the next 13 days at the wide receiver room. So we're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. But I just love this. I love the fact, okay, some of this is a long shot. I don't even care. The fact that we're having this conversation, and there are guys out there, respected guys, guys I respect at least, Kyle Madsen, I love his articles. There are guys out there that, this is a legitimate conversation with these players potentially playing, and they're rookies. That's awesome, guys. That's awesome. And they got to get halfway through the season before we can be really confident that this was an amazing draft class. But it sure feels that way right now, doesn't it? It does to me. Some of the disappointing news that came out of today for 49ers fans in general is this report that the 49ers have placed running back Elijah Mitchell on season-ending IR officially. He will miss the 2024 season, and his tenure in San Francisco is most likely over, which is really unfortunate. Really feel bad for him because, all the love that Jordan Mason's been getting, all 100% deserved. 100%. And the frustrations and challenges kind of thrown at Elijah Mitchell are also 100% deserved. He has not been able to stay healthy, and that's a legitimate problem, and I respect that. But I am bummed out because I would love to see Jordan Mason be RB2 and Elijah Mitchell be RB3 and not have as many reps and not have as many, not have a higher frequency of injuries. That's what I would have loved to see play out this season. That's what I was hoping for. And I think that's what most 49ers fans who were kind of talking about this situation were hoping for, right? Everyone was excited about JP Mason because not without Elijah Mitchell, but in his position with Elijah Mitchell below, right? I mean, nobody was saying your RB1, 2, 3 is Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, and then Isaac Guerrero. Because we haven't seen anything from Isaac Guerrero until Friday, right? We'd seen nothing from him until 2 weeks ago when he finally got a chance to be able to be in practices again. So this is unfortunate for me. I think this is a real disappointment. And just to remember what he's been to this football team. Once upon a time when in 11 games he nearly tallied 1,000 yards in a little over half the season. So that is, that's really unfortunate for me. I'm really disappointed. I would have liked to see Elijah Mitchell on this football team this year, and to know, I agree 100% with the tweet that this probably means that he won't be a 49er again. And that's a bummer. I'm disappointed about that. He still has a lot of career left in him, and I'm bummed that he's not going to be helping carry the load this season. Outside of all of that disappointing news, back to the rest of the news. I guess we'll call it good news. 2-minute drill. Just a few more things I saw today that I wanted to point out to you. This was really interesting from David Lombardi. What's left on Trent Williams' contract? $20 million, $23 million, and $33 million. That's 3 years, $77 million, and $25.8 million APY, which is $4 million off of the highest, or $3 million off the highest, I want to say, something like that. And if you're trying to pay him left tackle, best in the world, left tackle kind of money, that's what you're looking at. All right. Oh, it's right here in front of me. I freaking just waited a second. None of this is guaranteed, and his biggest money doesn't come until 2026, which is something to keep in mind. That's his age 38 season. Here are the top tackle APYs. $28 million for Wirfs, Sewell, $28 million. Both those guys got signed recently. Darisaw at $26. We can deduce that on top of more guaranteed money, Williams essentially wants a rebalancing, a bigger chunk of money coming sooner, perhaps in a way that ups his APY back to number one, since he's 36. And I suppose, in a way, you can understand that. His age 38 season, which when the reports came out, like initially in the middle of the summer, that he wanted an extension, people were like, he wants an extension beyond his age 38 season, so he wants to play up until he's into his 40s? Is that what we're expecting? I mean, he's the best left tackle in the world, but my goodness, you're over 300 pounds. You're putting a lot of work into that body, moving that weight around every single year in the National Football League, and going deep into the playoffs every single year. That's a lot of games. That's a lot of pain on your body. But I do see the argument that, now that we kind of see a little more clearly how things are shaping out, this is kind of a weird situation for Trent. If he's like, man, this could be my last season, and if this is my last season, I'm taking $20 million and I'm leaving $56 million on the table. I understand that argument. I understand, like, even if it's like, hey, restructure me to have more of this money up front right now because I'm important to this football team now. But we'll have to see how it plays out. I don't know, guys. I'm really trying to just stay confident that the 49ers know what they're doing in this situation, that it's all going to work out just fine in the end. Interesting tweet. I don't even know how this fit into today's content or whatever, but 2022 NFL QB class was one of the worst ever. You're looking at those names, and nothing's getting you really excited until you get down to Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy. It was a good reminder there. And I was speaking of Brock Purdy while I was on my lunch break today. I was listening to Brian Baldy, on the game, and he said this. It was exciting, so I was stoked that they posted this on Twitter as well. You go out and watch Justin Herbert throw a football, and he wows you. You go out and watch Brock Purdy win games, and he wows me. That was a great take. This was a reaction, of course, I'm sure you can imagine, to the Athletics release of those quarterback tiers. We talked about those yesterday, and Brian Baldy just bringing it back to what matters at the end of the day. Guys who put W's on the score sheet, those are the guys that have the most value. My goodness, so much to cover today, so much to discuss. I hope that you will hit me up in the comments and let me know what you think about a lot of this stuff, because there's so much that we broke down in today's 25-minute video. Thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking the video. Thanks for commenting and being a part of the conversation. I'm super pumped. We're now 13 days away. We are Brock Purdy days away from the New York Jets. Monday Night Football, real life. It's actually happening. I'm super pumped for it. I know you're here for it just as much as I am. Let's go. What a time to be alive.